works. Cool. So moving on, I think next up we have, we have cybersecurity, right? So I'd like to speak on this because I love cybersecurity. I have been into, of course, I'm always learning. I'm still learning, and there's a lot more to learn. But one thing which is very very important is passion for cybersecurity. If you want to get into cybersecurity and survive into security, and that is one reason there are very 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 few quality people. You might be getting quite a lot of people who might be messaging you, hey, I'll hack your Facebook account, I'll hack your Instagram account, right? They are not hackers. I mean, it's not even hacking. You can call it primarily pen testing or penetration testing, right? So that's very very important. Most importantly, in cybersecurity, okay, I think there's another question which we'll try to answer. Okay, we'll just answer this question towards the end of cybersecurity. Yeah, so you need to be very passionate about cybersecurity. You need to have a lot of discipline, and you need to be ready to take up a lot of disappointments, which is this because this field is very different from the conventional development domain. And what happens is, a lot of times you're dealing with a lot of risky scenarios, and you always are on deadlines and stuff. But one thing, there's no shortage of jobs or opportunities in security if you know things. Like almost every alternate days I get some sort of recommendation, some sort of calls, or some sort of opportunities related to security. And this domain is diverse. There are various fields in security. There could be web application security, there could be mobile application security. Also, I don't know. In this batch, I haven't got any question like how to become a master hacker in a week because every time a new batch comes, we do get these sort of questions. I'm pretty sure you guys, I'm pretty sure there would be master hackers in the new batch as well. I've heard a lot about master hackers who can hack people's accounts and stuff only via their phones. Right? So, yeah. So, to all these master hackers, here's the time when you can become a real hacker. You could become a real, InfoSec professional. There are lots of areas to this. You could pick up any one area, probably web security, app security, cloud security, API security, infrastructure, network, a lot of these domains, right? These are broken down into small parts, and then each of these small parts are broken down to individual vulnerability types. Now, what is a vulnerability, or what does a hacker do? Very simple. Hacker sees a system, or attacker sees a system, understands the system in depth, then finds what are the features of the system, and then tries to exploit the loophole, or tries to exploit any weakness, or any logic, to accomplish something which is not intended to happen, right? Like, I last year, I think you can still find a video of that on Glug YouTube. I had shown a demonstration on how I had hacked the OnePlus website. So I found a system to break into the authentication mechanism without putting the actual OTP. I was able to log into anyone's account by bypassing it. So that is something which a hacker does. He sees a system, he understands the process, and then he uses his methods, his techniques, and then he breaks into it. And that is a major breakthrough. If you're able to find a weakness, that is very important. If you're able to exploit it, that's excellent. But again, these sort of scenarios always need to be very ethical. I am personally a believer of white hat, and right. Okay, Piyush asks, what is the toughest job? I mean, what is the toughest job in cybersecurity, right? I would believe the toughest job in cybersecurity is you are handling cybersecurity of a company or security of a company, and that company gets attacked successfully. And you have to answer to the organization. I think that is the toughest job. This happens a lot of times because security is just a perception. As long as there's a system in place, there will always be some way which is missed out, or probably there could be some new vulnerability coming in which makes the system insecure. In terms of toughest job, getting to the actual question, I think toughest job, as per my experience, has been incident handling. Because whenever I have gone to handle incidents, I think the toughest time I had was in January this year, when a travel website security, I was in talks with them to take up their security, and right before that, coincidentally, they got attacked. And an attacker had gotten into their ticketing system, and he had booked tickets worth around 3 or 4 lakh Indian rupees, uh, two different parts of world, and and then you have to take up this incident within the shortest span of time. You also have to find the weakness by which hacker got into it. You have to kick him out. You have to get this fixed. You have to find the logs, and you have to backtrace him. So there are lots of things which happens in a very short span of time. You don't sleep for days together. I think that is the toughest job, but that is most challenging as well, which I like the most, right? A lot of people have. Yes, okay. Piyush has a follow-up question, right? I see him as a master hacker of the batch, right? So, white hat hackers need to find maximum number of loopholes and safeguard the system. Totally. And as a white hat hacker, you have to find all weakness and you have to fix them. And as a black hat guy, he or she just has to find one loophole and then exploit that. That is the biggest challenge, right? One against many. But it's always, being on good side of it is always fun, and it always rewards nicely, and that satisfaction is great. You feel powerful. I mean, I got into this domain, I started at the end of my first year. So a lot of people want to know how to get started. The resource which will be shared by Shresht, that has a small course by which you can get started. I'm not a very big fan of. Yeah, okay. I have a question by Shresht himself. Right. So, can I become white hat hacker by learning from White Hat Junior? I think this is an excellent question, uh, which a lot of people are asking. You cannot become anything by learning from White Hat Junior. But yeah, you can definitely give a try because I think they know differences between Java and JavaScript quite too well compared to what we work on. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I think that's about major part of cybersecurity. But most important part is no course can ever make you an infosec professional. You can just get good hands-on. You can still become a script kiddie, but something which drives you in security is your tries and experience and success after hundreds of failed attempts. That brings in a lot of experience. So you have to be following all major hackers like Nahum Sek, Stock Frederick. I think I'll have a separate talk in Glug Dev Days probably in 15-20 days with you guys on this. I'm just closing off in a minute. So you have to follow. Yeah, I'll be getting to bug bounties. You have to follow, all top-notch guys and stuff, and watch their videos, try to keep googling things, try to keep trying different things, learn new tools, try to make your own tools. These are the major parts. I think Karthik wants to get started with bug bounties. Yes, this is very interesting to look from out. I was doing bug bounty for quite a lot of times. I trained more than 50-60 people, and few of them won bounties in thousands and thousands of dollars. But bug bounty is highly dependent on luck, and there is a lot of uncertainty. I had hacked into which was that dating platform. uh, yes. Uh, yeah. So I had hacked into there was a Bumble, right? I had hacked into authentication system of Bumble, but they fixed it, and I never got a bounty. And someone else reported the same vulnerability 3 months later, and then they got $1,000. So a lot of uncertainties and stuff. But yeah, you can try your luck. Bug bounties are tough, and they teach you a lot more than anything else. I was doing it for quite some time. So yeah, these days I'm into corporate security. Right. So I think yes. So this is about security. Moving on, I don't want to take up a lot of times because we have a lot of things to discuss. Let's move on. Yeah, and this is, networks or applications without security. I see a lot of developers who build things, and then that is not secured, and that could lead to anything. I found API keys of many Fortune 500 companies openly lying in their open repositories and stuff. Just recently, I found, password and user ID of someone, a popular website, cPanel, on an open Trello. I just did Google search of company name space Trello, and then I got the ID password without even doing any sort of security attack. You get all these weaknesses. So yeah, having good security in place is very important, as you can see in the screen. Moving on. Yeah, I think someone who could be very good in speaking about these could be Shresht and Abhijit, speaking about artificial and intelligence and machine learning. I think they can take it on.
Yeah, also I had one question from you. So, Bumble didn't give you or didn't reward you anything, right? At least they could have given
Yes.
you a date, at least.
I didn't get that either. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was trying something. I think I had made couple of accounts and to test, and all my accounts got matched with themselves. So,
Okay.
right.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Yeah. Okay. So, I would start with Kaushiki. Can I share my screen? I would
Yes.
like completely show everything. Like I won't talk theory a lot. One
Yeah,
second. Let me know when my yeah,
yeah, we can see.
yeah, is my
Yeah.
screen visible? Okay, so uh, for a like when I was in my first year, I was hearing the buzzwords of artificial intelligence, machine learning, deep learning, but I didn't know what it was. Like I had heard everything about it. It's very cool. It has a lot of applications, but I didn't actually know what it consists of and what is the difference. So I have one very simple a graph that consists of concentric circles. Is it visible?
Yes, yes.
Uh,
Yes. Yes. Totally.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so as you can see, artificial intelligence is the like the circle with the highest radius, and it consists of everything that is related to making machines smarter. So AI had started evolving since the 1960s, and it is a very like old domain, and it was basically to automate tasks that was done by humans basically. And within that, machine learning is a subset of AI, and like it is basically for models to so that they can learn by themselves. So the purpose is that the machines or the models that you train get smarter and smarter over time without any human intervention. That is the purpose of machine learning, and that is like this thing is used on a lot of applications that I'm going to show you. And plus when it comes to deep learning, that is the like smallest circle. It is basically, very simply put, it is a simple machine learning thing that is applied to very large data sets, and it consists of NLP, that is natural language processing, and CV, computer vision. And we'll be seeing all of that. One second. Yeah. So I won't cover a lot of theory. I would only tell you the applications. So one thing is, like you could see, this is called a supervised learning algorithm. So this is a part of supervised learning in machine learning. So what happens is, suppose you're given a task to identify whether a email sent to you is spam or not spam. So how could we do this? How can we ask a machine learning model that has literally nothing, no IQ, to like understand how it could distinguish between a spam and something that is not spam? So suppose I have 100 emails. I'll tell you what actually happens, what happens in the pipeline. So suppose I have about 100 emails. Okay. So I'll set 70 emails aside, and I'll fetch those 70 emails into as a data into the model. Now these are labeled in supervised learning. These are labeled. So I tell the machine, that the model, that this is not spam and this is spam. It knows among 70 how many are spam, how many are not spam, and their characteristics. Okay, and then it goes through a model. Okay, and in that model, there is something called back propagation that happens, that makes the model smarter over time. And then it finally, there is something called activation function that is applied to get the output as not spam and spam. So that is a very like, this is the black box that keeps happening, and this is the pipeline that actually covers everything. And within that, there is something called classification and regression. Classification is something like, I could show you a fruit, and I would ask you whether it is an apple or an orange. So like here we would put apple and orange, and then we would train our model, and then it would predict whether it is an apple or an orange. So it goes on like that. And regression is something that has something such as a numerical value that we need to predict. So suppose I give you the stock price of previous 10 days and ask you to predict the price tomorrow. So you could use that data and predict something in terms of numerical values in regression. So enough with the theory. I'll tell you something about the applications that actually is implemented in machine learning. So something that is very common nowadays is face mask detection. Like you could classify if someone is wearing a mask or not by using machine learning. And this is actually a very cool application. We might cover this if there's demand in Glug Web days that will be introducing, that will be organizing in 15-20 days. And there's a lot of applications within machine learning. It could be medical diagnosis, stock market trading, fraud detection, personal assistants that you use on your phone, email spam that we saw in the example, self-driving cars, product recommendations such as what you see in Netflix and YouTube. All the recommendation systems that are made using machine learning. Traffic prediction. You see Google Maps, right? You can see different colors: green, sorry, blue, red, orange. So all of this is done through machine learning. Also, speech recognition, image recognition. There are a lot of things that we talked about. Then since we talked about deep learning, it could be, in a, you could say it is divided into natural language processing and computer vision widely. And within natural language processing, there is something such as you can see search, autocorrect, and autocomplete. Like if you type anything on Google, it shows the recommendation, right? It could be done using NLP. Then you have language translator. So I write something in English and gets converted into German. So then social media monitoring, chatbots that you see a lot of in a lot of applications these days. Like if you ever go to Amazon and you post a query, suppose you want to return something. Now you don't need an operator, or you don't even need to call someone. You can actually go and tell the chatbot that you need to return this product, and it will ask you why you want to return, and then you can get the return facilitated. Survey analysis, the things. Targeted advertising, this is something social media sites are very good at. And if you would have heard about the Donald Trump campaign that was done to win elections by Cambridge Analytica. So it was basically they targeted people who were they targeted people who could be influenced into voting for Donald Trump. So that was something that was used for campaign, and now Cambridge Analytica has been blacklisted because of these practices, because they had a lot of power. Then hiring and recruitment. These days, what companies do is when you send your CV to them, they use a algorithm to like accept or reject your resume. Nobody nowadays goes through the whole resume in the first stage. So this could be used in hiring. Voice assistants, you might know about Google Assistant and Siri and Alexa as well. Grammar checkers, Grammarly can be used here. And yeah, email filtering, we talked about it. And there are some other things that comes under computer vision. So this is aside from NLP. So in computer vision, you could do something like human pose estimation. We there's something called image transformation using GANs, and we'll see the practical implementation, and it is actually very exciting. uh, Plus there is for developing social distancing tools, which is the new use case. As you can see, these are getting as soon as they come closer to each other, it gets red. So this is something that has been applied by using computer vision. And a lot of things, you can actually colorize non-colored images. So if you watch Netflix, and you would know there's a documentary called World War II in color. So World War II in color could be like, it was all black and white, it was recorded in black and white, and all of that could be converted into color using all these algorithms. So it's actually really cool, and it is also used in medical image analysis. Other than this, there's a lot of applications of GANs. GANs are generative adversarial networks, and they are very, very powerful. I'll show you one example. So you see this person looks real, but the catch is this person is not real. This was created by an algorithm, basically. So if you refresh, you'll see someone else, and all of these real looking people are created by machines, and that this is something really, really phenomenal. And it could be dangerous as well. Like this could have some setbacks. uh, a practical application of this is something called deep fake, and I'll show you one video. If Tell me if you can hear the sound. Okay.
No, I think that's not audible, but then
Okay,
subtitles
okay,
are helpful.
okay. So
Yeah.
it's not audible, but the thing is, here Obama is, introducing a course of MIT course basically. Okay.
Right.
Now, uh, you see it looks like Barack Obama, exactly like Barack Obama. But at the end of the video, this is the person who was actually speaking. And using deep fake, uh, it Barack Obama's face was superimposed on this. Yeah, see this. He's speaking, but it seems like Barack Obama is speaking. So this is actually a very interesting, as well as something that could have a lot of bad consequences of deep learning.
I
So
think we had popular memes on Instagram as well of all our politicians.
yeah. Actually, you
The
could
deep
you could see it
learning.
all around.
Yeah,
Yeah, you could go to any political meme page and you could see deep fakes everywhere.
yeah.
And it was also used in election campaigns, I guess, in Delhi last year. I don't really remember,
I
but
remember seeing some memes of our prime minister and the Delhi chief minister, right?
yeah. So this is, you can't really trust anything these days because you are seeing and like you are actually seeing that it is Obama speaking, but it's not. So
Right.
this is something that is like you could see
This
to
is
it, and
extremely powerful. If anyone
yeah,
among, first year, second year, or anyone want to learn something of this sort, I would definitely recommend, talking to either Shresht or Avikant. These guys have done really good work in this. I mean, I've seen the work. These guys have made pretty cool stuffs. Last time Avikant was showing me a GAN network which automatically created faces and stuff. So you guys can always get in touch with them, and then you can connect these things to your Discord channels or probably Telegram and all of these. Yeah, Shesh, please continue.
okay, yeah, sure. So now moving on to data science. Okay, so I'll give a very brief introduction. I'll show you a notebook what actually is there in data science and how is the pipeline for that as well. So for data science, there is something that are the founding pillars, you could say, and that is first business or domain knowledge. So before solving a data science problem, it is required that you should understand the domain of the problem. Like if it's something related to mining or construction work, you should have domain knowledge in that. If it's something related to finance and stock market, you should understand what happens in finance and stock market. So these are things that are usually required in data scientists, that is the domain knowledge. Then mathematics is a very essential thing that is required, and even statistics. So you should have knowledge of mathematics as well as statistics if you want to venture into the domain of data science. And of course there's computer science, so that is there. And communication, like you get a the purpose of data science is you need to inference something from the data. You need to gather knowledge or information from data that could be beneficial for your stakeholders. So you should have proper communication networks or mediums through which you can convey your message. So that is a very essential quality of a data scientist, or something if you want to like really get into data science. So that is something you have to look into. So this is a very basic notebook that I would literally just skim through. I won't talk about anything serious. So what happens is first you do EDA while you're doing data science, that is exploratory data analysis. So you draw graphs. So these are graphs. So this is work experience. So this the domain for this is the campus placements. So we were given a data and you had to determine whether this person will get placed or not. So this is some EDA that you do. You draw some graphs, and we'll cover all of this in detail in the upcoming session, which would be there in 15-20 days. So this is something that actually happens in data science. So these are some inferences that you can write. The placement in the campus are average with almost 69% chances of getting placed. All of that you can. Does your gender increase the chance of you getting placed? So these are something that you could actually find out from the data by implementing code. Senior secondary grades affect your placement. Then these are some charts that are drawn. So these are some things that, like here you can see an histogram plot and the distribution of undergraduate percentage. All of these are statistics and something that actually happens within data science. Yeah, so these were all the things that I wanted to cover. So yeah, we can like move on to the other parts. I'll
Cool. I
stop
think
sharing my screen.
yeah, we have one last topic of competitive coding, after which we can get to best practices, which is, I believe, which is very, very important. You can always learn these technologies, but before that, you need to have best practices in place. So I think last one was okay. Yeah, we missed out some important memes, by the way. Yeah. So this is a important demonstration of machine learning. So next up, we have, I think, competitive coding, if I'm not wrong.